Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Stories That Inspire Us. My name is Janice, and I am your host today. Now, you know that on Stories, we have many amazing guests. And I am so excited to finally have this conversation today with the amazing Ann Visser. Ann, welcome to the Stories That Inspire Us podcast.
Thank you so much, Janice. It's a pleasure to see you again, and it's a pleasure to be here on the Stories That Inspire Us podcast. I'm honored to be here today, and I hope to add value to your audience.
Oh, I know that you will, Ann, and thank you so much for being here. And I just want to share with our guests a little bit about you. You are the co-founder of For Better, Forever, and four being the numeral 4, a certified coach, speaker, and trainer. And really, it's all about the communication. And there's so much that I want to jump into. I'm just wondering if you can start us off by sharing what For Better, Forever is all about.
Absolutely. It really starts with our story. So can I weave that through it, Janice? It really, it starts with our story. And it's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about equipping others to communicate in a way that aligns with their values, because our story is a love story. I shamelessly chased my husband in high school.
I love
Shameless. I wanted a date. So we became high school sweethearts. We were crazy in love. I still remember our wedding photographer saying, I have never seen a couple so in love with each other. We were crazy in love. Yes. And then life caught up to us. I was pregnant 1 month after we were married, very sick. We had 5 children in 6 years. Yes. What were we thinking? Anyway,
Sorry, I digress a little bit. And I don't know who the author is of that song, but it's a good song anyways.
Melis was new to farming, and he worked long hours, and he often came home frustrated. He was learning from his dad. There were challenges there. And I often felt like a single mom. I can still remember the moment that changed everything for us and why For Better Forever was born. We were on a date. We were sitting in our farm truck. We were outside our favorite restaurant. And I looked at him and I said, I can't do this anymore. And he looked at me and he said, I could see the panic. And he said, what do you mean you can't do this anymore? I said, I can't do marriage like this anymore. We keep going around and around. We never resolve anything. Neither of us like conflict. We would wait until one of us would blow, and that's no way to communicate. And as I poured out my unhappiness, the most amazing thing happened. He started to share his own pain. He completely missed his pain because I was so wrapped up in my own by this time. And for the first time, we heard each other's hearts. And that night we recommitted to each other that we would get the help that we needed in order to get well. And it was all because of that pivotal conversation that For Better Forever was born, because we started to read everything we could read about marriage. We wanted to get better. We started to apply the things that we were reading, and we started to get better little by little. One pivotal conversation changed everything. And then we walked the process out to learn how to walk out of the old ugly habits that we had. But that pivotal conversation brought about For Better Forever, because when we started to get better, we said, we can't keep this to ourselves. We have to share this with other people, because I'm sure the lessons we're learning can help others too.
And oh my gosh, I was just getting the chills as you were describing that, because when we had our pre-podcast chat, I really wanted to ask you about For Better Forever in more depth, but something told me not to, and I'm glad that I didn't. So obviously the other co-founder is your husband.
That is my other co-founder. And together we started For Better Forever. We started very simply just as lay people, hosting weekends and bringing speakers in who were knowledgeable in marriage and conflict and communication. And it just grew from there. We spoke with a counselor. He started to send pre-married couples to us so that we could help pre-married couples get ready for marriage. And I still do that today. And then we started to mentor one-on-one and meet in our doctor's clinic in a very professional setting, just to mentor, all for free, Janice, for the longest time, for 14 years. And then about 6 years ago, we both went for coaches training, and we made For Better Forever a business. I brought my daughter on board with me. She works with me as a part of the business. She is my magician. She's amazing.
I love that, the digital magician in the family. Everyone needs one.
Yes, that's right. And so that's how For Better Forever was born. I love what I do. I love the transformation that happens in the coaching relationship, as I believe in my people and I watch what happens to them as we like they talk and they hear themselves talk, and I listen and I ask questions, and they think deeply about what's happening and why are they getting stuck, and it helps them to move forward. It's powerful.
I can imagine being in one of those sessions and how powerful it must be to communicate that and asking those thought-provoking questions that they perhaps kind of sit back for a moment and say, hey, wait a minute, maybe I'm looking at this. I should look at this differently on how I am communicating, because I think, and obviously you are the expert in this field. So I would love your take back on this. I think sometimes it's maybe not what we say, but how we say it.
That is so true, Janice. It's so often not what we say, but how we say it. And the tone and the body language, we can send messages we're not even aware that we're sending, which is one of the reasons why my daughter and I, we did a framework around pivotal conversations. And the first part of the framework is check emotions. And that's why we need to check emotions, because when we don't check emotions, we may have great content and it may all be true, but the way that we communicate it, if it doesn't land in a soft place, and that's why this first pivotal conversation that I had with my husband in our farm truck worked. I didn't know what I was doing, completely fell into it by accident, Janice, but it worked because of the way it was communicated to him. And he felt safe then to communicate his heart with me. And that's where we start, is to check those emotions, to check our motives. I remember a time I was sitting at the kitchen table with my daughter, and I was talking to her about a conversation I needed to have with our son. And I blurted out, I just don't trust him. And she looked at me.
That's pretty powerful.
As a young adult, she looked at me and she said, Mom, you need to check that. I knew as soon as it was out of my mouth, Janice, I needed to check that. I knew that this was not about him, and she knew this was not about her brother. This was about me and my mindset, my heart toward him. And I went to my thinking chair. That's what I call it, Janice. That's where I do some of my best thinking. I went to my thinking chair and I journaled out the questions that we give our clients in that first C. What are you thinking? What am I feeling? What is troubling me? And what do I really, really want? And as soon as I did that, I knew what was going on. I was stuck in 2005. When we had significant challenges raising this young man. So my emotions were back there in 2005. And once I recognized that this is not where he is anymore, I don't need to be there. And once I got my emotions current with where I was now, I was able to have that pivotal conversation. Was just like minutes. There was nothing to it. I had made it so big in my head and in my mind. It was not like that at all. It was a beautiful conversation with him. It was done in no time. It was about boundaries, but it was so easy because I checked my emotions so that my tone and my body language could come across in a way that could land in a softer place for him.
Wow. Like that, practicing what you preach in a way that felt good to you, checking your emotions, checking your motives, going to your thinking chair. I am wowed. I don't know how to explain it other to say that I am wowed. And I know that your clients must also see the value in that, whether it is a thinking chair for them, whether it is going into the next room, listening to some soothing music to check in with yourselves. That is absolutely fascinating. And because of that, you probably averted maybe a crisis situation.
Absolutely. I'm certain that if I had have had that conversation before I checked my emotions, I would have created more distance between us. Like I had with my husband, we call it creeping separateness. And when we have those poor conversations, we create emotional space in our relationships. My friend, actually, she calls it creeping separateness. And I love that term because it creeps up on you, and the separateness grows and grows until you all of a sudden you realize, wait a minute, where are we? Like, I don't know you anymore. What just happened here? But it happened over time. And so having these pivotal conversations closes that emotional space and allows us to grow in deep and rich ways. And we did not know how to do that in the beginning of our marriage. I didn't even know that it was a skill, Janice, that it's actually something we can learn. Mm-hmm. I was a slow processor. I didn't know how to share what was going on inside of me because I didn't know. And if you don't know, you can't share what you don't know, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a skill. And now with practice, I'm so much better I'm still slower than my husband, but I'm so much better at it with practice. And, another reason why we were not fighting well together is because we are extremely agreeable, the both of us. Isn't that funny? You'd think that would go better, that we didn't want to fight. We did not want to conflict. And so we didn't until one of us would be so upset, we would hit the roof, right? 0 to 60. Mm-hmm. in seconds. And that was hard. That is hard on marriage. And we didn't know that until much later, that conflict is actually a good thing for marriage. Conflict is the doorway to intimacy, says Gary Smalley. And I like to think about intimacy as into me you see.
Wow. Into me you see.
Yeah. So when we have a good fight, where we assertively say what we want, what we're feeling, what's happening inside, and we listen, even though we don't agree with the other person, but we hear their heart. It can create this bond because I see into me when I speak, share, I get to see into me in a new way. And I see into the other person in a new way. And that brings about a deep sense of love and belonging.
Wow. So I want to share with you a scenario. And obviously it's going to relate to my marriage. And by the way, my husband, Gary, and he's my soulmate. But we always say, when we say back to one another, it's in the details. So if I'm explaining something to my husband or vice versa, whatever he might say, and I kind of look back, and obviously it's in my body language and in my face that I don't understand what you're trying to get across. And I'll say, it's in the details. Can you explain it more? Or versus when I was standing at the breakfast bar yesterday, cutting vegetables, and he came in after everything was done, and when he promised that he would help me, just saying, and I had a knife in my hand. This is no lie, okay? So I'm holding the knife, and he says, "Oh, I'm here to help you," and I'm like, do you really think this is the most opportune time? We love humor in those situations. It's like, for instance, we take a step back and we look at one another while we're looking at ourselves with respect, with honesty, with a lot of humor. You know, for the most part, that works. But, you know, of course, there are those times where we don't communicate what we're trying to say. So if I'm trying to say something, and this goes with any type of conversation or communication with anyone else, if I am not fully describing what I am trying to communicate, how do I expect that person to know what I'm talking about? So I want to say that it's really a two-way street, but those two-way streets do have to merge at some point.
Absolutely, Janice. And I work with women who are leaving difficult marriages or destructive marriages, or I work with women who are struggling in their marriages. And I don't say that every marriage needs to be saved either. I'm not saying that, but I do think that we give up too soon. And I think that if we could learn the skills that you're talking about to kind of disrupt what is happening, when you use that line, the two of you kind of have this agreement, right? That it's in the details, and that you're going to pay attention a little bit more. What are those details for each other, and kind of care about those details for each other. And that's a beautiful way to disrupt whatever is going on for just a moment, to bring it back to, oh yeah, okay, we're not quite getting it, or you're not quite understanding, you're not quite getting it. Let's talk about the details. That's a beautiful way to bring it back to where it's really important to have those disruptors. One of our disruptors is, I'm really trying here.
Absolutely. And I just want to share one more thing, because I think our viewers and listeners will definitely crack up about this. And it's definitely in the details. Whenever either one of us leaves a room, one or the other will say, aren't you going to give your husband a kiss? Aren't you going to give your wife a kiss? Well, today my husband said, aren't you going to give a husband a kiss? And I thought for a moment, why, yes, I would love to give a husband a kiss. However, I think my husband might not like that. And I said, it's all in the details. So details with humor, love it.
Details with humor. And it's so good to be able to laugh at yourselves too. I think that's a beautiful thing. I am a very positive person, and understanding our differences is helpful too in communication. So I'm all about the fun, Janice, and very playful. And my husband, I love him. He is everything I'm not. So he is like very particular, and he has everything labeled in his closet, and he is just so organized, and I love it. So every time we would go to plant the garden, he's a farmer, we're farmers, and every time we would go to plant the garden, we'd have to have exact straight rows. There's nothing more pleasing to a farmer than straight rows, honestly. And we would get all the kids out there, and he would be just trying to get these straight rows. And I'd be like, let's have a party. Let's have fun. Let's plant this garden. And it took us a little while to figure out, oh, this is the fun. And I would look at him, and I'd put my hands on my hip, and I would say to him, if this isn't going to be fun, I am not going to be here.
Oh my gosh, but you got through it. And, you know, obviously with the little family circle farm, garden, I should say, on the other side, you know, I see that as every year as the head of the family, my husband's Uncle Billy, and, you know, everyone's out there with their measurements and the sticks with the yarn, and I'm like, oh my God, I gotta walk away.
Now we laugh about that. It used to be a little more serious, and it used to be able to, like, we could bring that into a hot button issue, and it could be like neither of us would be happy doing it, but now we laugh about it, and we kind of mimic that in each other, and it's fun to be able to laugh together.
That is amazing. And you're right. You have to be able to laugh together to get you through all of those things. I want to ask you about your training. You had mentioned that you and your husband became certified, and I believe it was through John Maxwell, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Excuse me. What did you love about that training? Did you, one of my questions would be, going into that type of training, did you have any preconceived notions that maybe something that you thought was one way was actually another?
I sure did. I sure did, Janice. I thought I knew how to mentor couples and women, and I learned how much I didn't know about coaching. And I learned the difference between mentoring and coaching. And I was already working with people. And so I very quickly shifted my people from mentoring into coaching. And that was powerful in itself. I learned that it's really important to surround yourself with good people. And I'm still a part of this team. My membership comes up in August, and there's just no question about it. It's just so good to be a part of a team. I can get on a call and I can call into a group of 1,000 people, but if I get on the line and I can ask my question very specifically. I have this coming up. How do I work through this, or how do I manage this? And it's just so incredibly helpful to have people who are further ahead than I am in business in particular to help me walk through those business questions that I have. So it has blown my mind with all the resources that it has made available for me to be a part of this team. I traveled 4 years ago, I believe it was, to Paraguay with John and 150 other coaches to teach leadership skills to junior high students. It was a trip of a lifetime, Janice. I got to stand and work with a translator, stand in front of junior high students who are hungry for books and hungry to learn. And we were launching this program. So we were just the beginning of the program. And the teachers would continue the program after we left because they're hungry for change within their country. And so I am looking forward to the next transformational trip that I can do with John.
That is wonderful. And where would that next place be? Do you and your husband have anything in mind?
I do not know where John will be going next. I know that he's been into Costa Rica, I believe Guatemala, Dominican, Africa. He has something like 20 invitations to go into different countries. And so, but he goes in first and he talks to the top level of leadership, as in the prime minister, president, whoever that is. And then they start training at the top. So this was our third trip as a team into Paraguay. And then we go right down, start at the top leaders and go right down through to the junior high students.
That is amazing. So you're not only what you and your husband do, but through the John Maxwell coaching, you're not only coaching with leaders and entrepreneurs, you're coaching with our youth.
Absolutely. Today I was just down at in Scotchford, and I was training. We have a training called How to Avoid Falling for a Jerk. It's been written by Dr. John Van Epp, and I was doing the first lesson of that class there with our native people and with our youth, our native youth. So very exciting to be there with them, and they're so intelligent and so bright, and it was a pleasure to be with them today. Anything related to relationship, I do that training, How to Avoid Falling for a Jerk, which is a 5-week mastermind. That's for singles. And then I do one-on-one with pre-married couples, 5 sessions before they're married and 2 following their marriage. They have questions after they're married. I want to be there for them after they get married to help them navigate through those questions they have. And then I do one-on-one with women. And then we have a membership for Christian women as well, which is really a growth-driven program for women who want to apply their faith and live aligned to their values.
That is just amazing. If you had to schedule one of those trips, where would you want to go? Where do you think your next trip, if you were just to design it by yourself?
Well, I have compassion children in Bolivia, and that would be, I dream of meeting her, and
Oh, wow.
That would be quite something to work there in Bolivia. Yeah.
That is beautiful. And for our viewers and listeners that do not know what passion children are, can you enlighten us with that?
Sure. So I live in Canada, and this company is a Canadian company. It's called Compassion Canada. And it's, you can sponsor a child. It's a minimal fee a month, and you can sponsor as many children as you want. And then you get reports on how they're doing in school. Our little girl, she's 15, and you get pictures as she's growing. What I like about Compassion Canada is most of the money goes to, very little of it goes to administration work. And every year they report on that as well. So I love the integrity. Integrity is really important for me, Janice. I want to know that the people that are leading me live their life with integrity. And so part of that integrity is what drew us to Compassion Canada.
Wow, that is so beautiful. What do you foresee in the future? For instance, I foresee maybe you writing a book or something of that nature, doing this virtual event. What is one thing that maybe you haven't done that you would love to do, which would apply so well in what you're doing today?
Oh, we have so many dreams, Janice. Where do I start? All of the content that we're writing now, I know that someday it will go into a book. My story, our story will go into a book. You know, we're just an ordinary couple, but I feel like God is doing something extraordinary in our hearts and in our lives. And we just feel compelled to share what has happened so that other people who are in difficult marriages, you know, where they have circumstances that are pressing in on them or challenges, or maybe there are women who are leaving marriages that's maybe not their choice, or maybe they've been in a difficult marriage and they need to leave. And I want to be there to help those women. I would foresee that we write a book. We're currently now putting our content up on Kajabi, which means it will be evergreen, which means we can expand our membership. So we're doing that now. Our membership opens in September. So that's a big dream, and I'm excited about that. And a live event, that would be exciting, Janice. A live event would be very exciting, especially to host one here in my home province of Prince Edward Island. Mm-hmm. It's a garden. I live in a garden every single day with beaches like minutes from me. It's just a beautiful place. It would be a beautiful place to bring people to host a live event. It would be wonderful.
It sounds beautiful. And your digital advocate who works with you, who happens to be your daughter, can certainly make all of that happen for you. I am so excited for you and your husband, but for also the people that you serve. Oh my gosh. And can you tell us how our viewers and listeners can connect with you?
Sure. So my name is Ann without an E, Visser, and I'm on Facebook. And my email is ann@forbetterforever.com. And I have a free resource to share with your people. And I would love to share that, Janice.
Absolutely.
That's a great way to get in touch with us as well. It's a 7-day challenge to help you get ready to have your next pivotal conversation. It's to do that prep work. So each day we're going to send out a short video with a simple action step that you can take to prepare for that next pivotal conversation that you're going to have. So that 7-day challenge, you can sign up for that at forbetterforever.com/challenge. So that's the numerical number forbetterforever.com/challenge.
Oh my gosh. I'm just highlighting that because as you can see, I've been like scribbling notes, and some of my notes I can't read. So I have to highlight that one. And I want to thank you so much for being here on Stories. This is the stuff that stories are made of, to effectively communicate our stories in such a way that honors our journeys. And I just can't wait to have you back on. I hope you definitely will consider coming back on.
Absolutely. Love to, Janice. Love to.
Wonderful. And everyone, I want you to know, obviously in the show notes, I will make sure that all of Ann's contact information will be in there. But I want to ask you a question, the viewers and listeners. How is your for better forever? Are you ready to challenge yourself? My name is Janice, the host of Stories That Inspire Us. Today, I was inspired by Ann's story. Thank you so much. So appreciate your being here today.
Thank you, Janice. And I wish all your listeners, to continue to communicate in a way that makes your relationship stronger and better. Bye for now.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.